My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Well, hello, and welcome to the second episode of Sports Card Investor. We've got a good episode for you today. During today's episode, I'm going to tell you what I think is the number one sports card that you should be buying and investing in right now. The number one card, and I'll give you a hint that number one card is from the sport of basketball, because I believe that basketball cards in general make your best investment opportunities right now. That's not to say that you can't do well investing in football or investing in baseball or investing in other sports. You can. If you are able to select the next up-and-coming quarterback in football and invest in that player's cards, you can do really well. Certainly people who are on the Patrick Mahomes train early before last year, they're very proud of themselves right now. Or if you're the type of person who can pick out the baseball prospect from the crowd of prospects every year and figure out the ones that are going to go on and have really great pro careers, then obviously you're going to do really, really well investing in baseball cards. But for me, right now, basketball cards are the safer bet, and they are your best investment option. And there's a few different reasons for that. First of all, basketball, the NBA, has never been more of a star-driven league than it is today. And when you have a star-driven league, when stars are really, really being promoted, that is great for card prices because people love to collect stars. You know, the entire setup of the NBA right now is set up to promote players. The league is okay with it. They like it. Unlike football, where, you know, the owners want to rule the world and not let any player, you know, bubble up to have, too much prominence. That's, you know, the team game, of course, right? First and foremost. Well, the NBA is the opposite. In the NBA, they endorse the players' personalities and they let the players lead the league. And that is really good when you are buying sports cards of players. Of course, there's no helmets in the NBA or face masks to cover players up. You see them all the time. Their faces are recognizable. That's also good for sports cards to have really recognizable players. In general, the players in the NBA, they're relatively well behaved. You don't have as many domestic violence problems or arrests, certainly compared to football, you don't. And that's good as well. The NBA has become a year-round league. And this offseason, for the first time ever, with all of these moves happening, with, you know, Kawhi going to LA and KD going to New Jersey along with Kyrie, and of course Anthony Davis going to LA, you know, all of that type of thing happening, you saw talk of the NBA completely dominate baseball through baseball's All-Star break. You know, people were talking about the NBA, and the NBA has a year-round hype now. People are also talking about the Summer League and the fact that you've got a lot of the stars like Zion. Unfortunately, you know, he got injured and is going to be out for a lot of the Summer League now, but he was there for the first game of the Summer League. You had RJ Barrett. You've got a lot of these up-and-comers who are in the draft this year, who are going to be the stars of next year's rookie card class. And these guys are playing in the Summer League, and the Summer League's getting a lot of media attention. So basketball has become a year-round sport. Social media is pushing basketball even further ahead as a year-round sport. And of course, the star power of the players is driving all of it. So I love that aspect when it comes to investing in basketball cards. I also love the fact that in basketball, any position can be a star. And this is much different than any of the other sports leagues. In football, really the quarterbacks are the players who you want to invest in their cards. Maybe there's some offensive players, maybe some star running backs or some star wide receivers or tight ends, but they're also very susceptible to injury. And so it's really the quarterbacks in the NFL who are the players who get most of the investment attention, so much so that how much interest there is in every year's release of football cards comes down to what quarterbacks there were in the draft that year and how good those quarterbacks are projected to be. From an investment standpoint, it's not great to invest in a league where the popularity of card collecting for that league is going to go up and down every year based on how good of a draft class there is. So that's a little bit scary from an investment standpoint. But football is not the only sport, certainly, where positions make a big difference. Obviously, you see that in hockey and soccer, where your goal scorers or your goalies are popular positions, but certainly your defenders and those playing midfield, they're not going to command, nearly as much attention from a sports card collecting or investing standpoint. And in baseball, baseball is all about the home run hitter, right? People like the big, powerful home run hitter. They like to invest in that guy's cards. They're certainly not as much about the utility player. The guy with a good on base percentage, is not as important as the big, flashy home run hitter. And generally, the hitters are more important than the pitchers, and certainly a lot more important than like your middle relievers, or certain aspects. So baseball is position dependent in a different way, but just the same type of dependency as you see in the other sports. Basketball is the only sport where you don't see nearly as much position dependency when it comes to who could become a star, in the league. And that's good from a card collector standpoint, to not have to worry about what position someone's playing and then decide if you're willing to invest in their card or not. And you saw that with this past year's rookie class. I mean, you had a center. You had DeAndre Ayton as a center who, first overall draft pick and got a ton of attention. Obviously, Luka. Luka played all over the court. He played point guard. He played small forward. He was all over the court, And then, of course, you had Trae Young in Atlanta as a point guard. So you had different players from different positions who were all-stars last year in the rookie class, and that's something that's going to continue. It's good for card prices. Basketball doesn't have as many injuries. I'm nervous when I buy football cards and when I try to invest in a running back or a wide receiver. I'm nervous about what the longevity of their career is going to be. There's less of a risk with basketball. Obviously, every sport has injuries and things can happen, as it did this year to KD and Klay Thompson at the end of the season. But generally, investing in basketball is a safer bet from a injury perspective. And basketball has truly become an international game. And I think this is really good and important for card investing. The audience of basketball is growing rapidly. In fact, basketball is seeing revenue growth of almost 20% year over year from outside of the United States. And that's only going to accelerate as look at who some of the big stars are in the NBA right now. You've got Luka, right? You've got Giannis. I mean, these guys are bringing international audiences into the sport with them. And I think that that's really, really important to card investors, because if you get on their cards early, it opens up a whole new audience who might be interested in buying those cards from you. So I think that that's a really great thing for card investors as well. So this brings me to who I think is the single best card you could buy today. And that card is no other than Lonzo Ball. And the reason why I think Lonzo Ball's cards are so good is because, first of all, his card prices are really depressed. If you look at where his cards started at, let's take a look, for example, at his Silver Prism rookie card. Prisms are kind of a staple. Silver Prisms in particular are kind of a staple in the basketball card collecting world. And when his Silver Prism rookie cards, PSA 10 is what I'm looking at here, first came out into the marketplace in early 2018, you were getting prices of above $400. Of course, that was a blip because they were the very first cards in the market, but then they stabilized and you were still getting a whole lot of sales at over $300 a card. They dropped all the way down to about $50 for a PSA 10 Lonzo Ball Silver Prism. Now, they've gone back up some since then. And in fact, in recent weeks, since he got traded to the Pelicans, there's been some renewed interest and attention to him, but they are still quite low compared to where they were for a lot of the last 2 years. A lot of people thought that Lonzo was going to be this big star in LA, that he was going to pair with LeBron, and that was going to be, he was going to be the next big thing. Of course, that didn't work out that way. And so as soon as it became evident that his time with LeBron and his time in LA was not working out the way that some had anticipated, it caused his card prices to go down. But this does not mean that his career is over. This does not mean that he is a bust. And if you look at data will tell you that he still has a very, very promising career ahead of him. One of the data sources that I really like to look at is 538's Carmelo rankings. So 538, if you're not familiar, it's owned by ESPN, run by Nate Silver, very, very famous statistician. And he has developed, along with his team, a algorithm for determining the future value of basketball players in the NBA and how well they're going to do over the next 5 years. And if you look at Lonzo Ball's rankings in the brand new Carmelo data, which just came out right at the beginning of July, he is ranked as having a very, very promising career ahead of him. One of the more promising players in the NBA right now. And, from his rookie class, there are some other players who have gotten a lot of interest from card collectors and investors, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and their card prices are significantly higher than Lonzo Ball's card prices today. But if you look at the Carmelo data, what's interesting is it actually predicts that Lonzo Ball is going to have a better career than Donovan Mitchell, and it puts him just slightly below Jason Tatum in terms of career potential in the upcoming years. So I think Lonzo's got a ton of potential. I also think the fact that Zion is going to New Orleans and Lonzo is now in New Orleans, I think that is a big deal for Lonzo. Zion is going to change the face of the NBA next year. There's going to be so much hype around this guy. He is going to be the most hyped player coming into the league next year. More than anyone else in history, more than LeBron was when LeBron entered the league, because LeBron didn't have the benefit of social media, and LeBron didn't have the benefit of getting to spend a year at Duke and getting the country to know his name through Duke's success. Zion's going to have this incredible hype, and Lonzo is going to be passing him the ball. And that I think, although New Orleans may not be a wonderful team next year, they do have a strong nucleus of young players. I think they're an up-and-coming team, and I think the fact that Lonzo is there with Zion is going to make a huge difference in attention that's paid to him, and he's going to go on to have a really, really good career. So I am buying Lonzo cards right now, and I think you should as well. I think if you're looking to get into basketball card investing, he is one of the best investments that you can currently make. I would love to hear what some of your hot investments are right now. Please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please leave some comments, or you can go to sportscardinvestor.com and leave comments on our blog there. And we will include some of those thoughts and ideas in our upcoming episodes. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or give this a rating if you're if you're listening to the podcast. It really makes a difference. It's going to help build our audience and allow us to create future episodes like this and build an audience of people who can give their ideas on sports card investments and allow us to share those in future episodes. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.